This is David Prosper, host of the Leadership Revolution. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast from Public House Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Food for Thought podcast. I'm your host, Kylie Thompson. I am recording this intro on the 4th of July, so happy 4th, everyone. I'm going to make this really quick because I want to go celebrate the holiday, but before I get into episode number 11 with Liz Rooke, I do just want to say this episode is sponsored by Coffee Over Cardio. Coffee Over Cardio is one of my favorite brands ever. I'm obsessed with their coffee, their creamer, their apparel, literally everything. You guys know I love cold brew, and their cold brew tumbler that you make the cold brew in using grounds, or their cold brew packs, is one of my favorite things. I'm always drinking it, and I need you all to head over to coffeeovercardio.com and use my code 10KThompson for 10% off of your order. I need you guys to try these products. They're so amazing, and it's such a wonderful company. So please, if you're going to spend your money on a coffee brand, make it Coffee Over Cardio. All right, everyone, so this week's episode features Liz Rooke. She's a rheumatologist, a health and wellness coach, and she owns the company, The Thrive Arena, where she helps people thrive and love the skin that they're in. I was really excited to have the opportunity to sit down with her and learn a little bit about how The Thrive Arena came to be, as well as, just learning more about what she does, because this is the first non-eating disorder sufferer that I am interviewing. And so it's just really interesting to see her opinions on health and wellness and food, because she hasn't had an eating disorder, but she works with people that have. So without, dragging it out, I'm going to take you guys over to my interview with Liz Rooke. All right, everyone. Good morning. I have Liz here with me today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Kylie?
I'm doing well. I'm super excited that you're here. You're one of my first guests that won't be giving an eating disorder testimony. So I'm really excited to get to chat with you on what you're passionate about and get your area of expertise. So before we get started, why don't you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
So I am Liz Rooke. I am a rheumatologist, which is a doctor for arthritis and autoimmune diseases. I am also a mindset and health coach, and my passion is helping people overcome emotional overeating, which is a different type of disordered eating. And I know that you do a lot of work with eating disorders and anorexia and bulimia and binge eating disorders, which I think is fantastic. And I've listened to the first couple of episodes.
Thank you.
And what you're doing and the message you're putting out there is phenomenal. And what I work with my clients and also my patients in the rheumatology world is more learning how to cope with life and develop healthy coping skills, which most of the time we don't learn because they don't teach us coping skills growing up, and everything we learn, we kind of absorb from our families and the people around us, is how to eat for health and eat for nourishment and eat to respect and love our bodies versus eating emotionally because we're bored or we're stressed or culturally we're celebrating, and how that can tie into health issues later in life, and how we can all be healthier by making those lifestyle changes.
Sure. And how did you get into doing the health coaching and the mindset coaching? Do you have a personal tie to that?
So I do. I started on a kind of nutrition and weight loss journey when I finished my fellowship in rheumatology, and I was at a conference in Hawaii, and I've always had body confidence. Even as a gymnast growing up, I was kind of on the stockier side. I come from Italian Polish heritage, and the joke in our family is we're strong peasant stock. So I've always been more of a muscular body type, and I've always been confident as a gymnast, even when I was more overweight in college and, eating more emotionally, which is my background. We were in Hawaii at a conference, and I couldn't jog down the beach. And I realized, man, I've really let myself go, just being preoccupied and focused on, my medical training and getting married and adjusting to a new life and a new way of life. And I really had to commit back to myself to get healthier. So I signed up for a couple different programs, and I've tried every diet, and I went through boot camp and found CrossFit. And I've realized like restricting and trying to cut food groups out, and they're all short-term solutions. And until I kind of fell into life coaching almost accidentally and realized it really comes from your thoughts and your beliefs, and working on those and learning to love yourself and work on those deep-seated beliefs of why you're eating the way you are and why you're choosing to live your life the way you are. And then working on those beliefs and really not fixing them because they're not broken. It's just what you've always done, about finding ways to improve your health through your mindset and your thoughts. And it really gets me excited when I see the progress in my patients and my clients, and we talk about something and they say, I never really thought of it that way. Or we find something that's kind of holding them back and keeping them stuck, and we're able to move them forward. And until I went through that myself, I was, on the bandwagon of you've got to count macros, or you've got to, do this or eat this way. And I love food. I grew up loving food. I love to eat. And I found that balance where you're nourishing your body and you can enjoy eating food, but you don't have to be obsessively counting calories or always having 20 grams of protein at every meal, or, or the whole cycle of like exercising to earn your food, that kind of thing. That's really not healthy emotionally for people. So That's kind of my journey and how I got into it. And I joke that Georgie Fear is a dietitian, and she's wrote a book called Lean Habits, and I love that book. And then I kind of found Brooke Castillo of the Life Coach School, and then I read James Clear's Atomic Habits. And I'm a big learner. I love to learn. I love to incorporate ideas, and I kind of blended all those together to come up with a mindset and habit-based coaching system that I use with my clients. And it's just like they all got together and had a baby, and that's what my business, Thrive Arena, is their baby.
That is so awesome.
With my medical background kind of in there too.
Yeah, definitely. And as someone too that, yes, I struggled with an eating disorder, but I do consider myself to be, for the most part, recovered. But even still, I'm like learning to have that relationship with food. And like, I've learned in quarantine, especially, that I love to cook, and I love to I focus more on like intuitive eating, and not focusing on, the macros and all that stuff that I did focus on for so long. Especially when I came out of my eating disorder, I was trying to count my macros, and I guess it manifested itself into like a new way to form control. Cause I knew I was still getting, like, calorie wise, I was getting everything that I needed. But I was still like searching for that control within my macros. And so breaking free of that and like deleting my Fitness Pal, and like you said, realizing that I don't have to run X amount of miles in order to come home and eat, this perfectly portioned chicken breast or whatever it may be. So it's really great that you're doing that work too, outside of the eating disorder realm. Cause I think that that's something a lot of people don't understand. So I really commend you for that. What does it mean to be like a mindset and health coach? So like, how do you work with your clients in that regard? I'm just not familiar with this at all. So teach me.
Sure. And I work with clients right now one-on-one, and it's usually an hour weekly session where we work on whatever they're struggling with, whatever they're stuck. And so the intake is usually we hop on a call, we do a consult to kind of delineate what struggles they're having. Sometimes people kind of know where they want to be and they know where they're at. And maybe they've had some experience with, I was doing really well, and then I got sick and fell off, and now I can't quite get back to, losing this 5 pounds, or maybe they have a goal of losing 50 pounds because they were in shape and then they got pregnant and then they started their career, and then life just happens, right? And your health gets away from you. So we work one-on-one, an hour a week for usually 6 to 12 months to really get them to a good place of where they can trust themselves and their body. And what I try to teach is intuitive eating. And we do that with habits. And then we delve into the mindset behind why people get stuck. So my main tenets are planning, right? Because if you don't have any kind of plan, failing to plan is planning to fail, that kind of thing. So it's not a rigid thing. And I think macros have their place in educating people about nutrients and foods and what are good, better, and best choices. I'm a strong believer in there are no good or bad foods. So sometimes we work on breaking those associations, like, I love sugar and everyone's like, sugar is bad. But I truly believe you can find the balance from enjoying your food and eating in a healthy way to nourish your body. So I don't believe in restricting or cutting out whole food groups unless it's affecting your health in a negative way. And when I counsel patients with autoimmune disease, we talk about autoimmune protocols and taking out certain foods that can be inflammatory, and that's a whole different topic.
Sure.
But when I work with my clients, we talk about planning food and planning for success and how to develop planning habits that are healthy, as far as sometimes it's food prepping, sometimes it's when you go out to eat, having a plan ahead of time so you can feel confident that you're making the best choices for yourself and your goals, whatever they may be. Eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're satisfied, and that kind of intuitive eating, which is really scary for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I still am working on. And I think it's always a journey. You never get to like a destination, because you reach, even if it's a weight goal or a body aesthetic. And then when you're there, you're like, oh, well, what's the next goal? Because I'm not exactly, everyone's usually chasing something, but it's also settling into that journey and teaching people to trust themselves, trust their body, trust their instincts. But it's using the habit framework and then learning about the mindset behind why we do what we do and how to shift that to improve their habits and get them to a healthier goal and a healthy body weight and to feel better about their body and their life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
I think all of that comes from love and a loving mindset. Whatever the question is,
absolutely.
Love is the answer.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. That's like my mantra. And you mentioned like breaking down the association of good and bad foods, which I think is something that people who do struggle with eating disorders, and like I still struggle with this a lot. How do you work on breaking those associations with people?
So we kind of go into why they feel that foods are good and bad. And a lot of it is cultural or societal conditioning. And some of it is just nutrition education. I have clients and patients who don't understand why eating certain foods, if I eat cheese all the time, why can't I lose weight? And it's that education of fat calories are 9 calories per gram, and protein and carbohydrate are 4 calories per gram, and density matters and volume matters. And some of that is just education, but it's also learning that balance of, if you want to drink 1 soda per day, one meal is not going to make or break you. One thing is not going to make or break you. But if you have a goal, over here, and you're doing this thing over here, is it possible that we could adjust this to make it so you can have the best of all worlds without giving up, what's important to you and who you are. If someone enjoys a glass of wine, and I worked with one of my clients on this, she liked her wine and they socialized a lot for her husband's business. And we had to find what balance worked for her as far as getting the weight loss and the health that she wanted, versus, being able to socialize and not feeling out of place. And sometimes it's a feeling that holds us back, of feeling like we're depriving ourselves, or feeling like we're going to feel left out if everyone else is, eating pizza and drinking beer. And we're over here saying, no, I really would rather have a salad, and staying true to who we are and what we want, versus feeling that peer pressure to fit in and belong. And breaking the association with good and bad foods can be very difficult for some people, and other people, we find out that belief that's holding them back, and we help them shift that to a new belief. And we use thought bridging and bridging ladders to do that. And that is really effective in kind of shifting a perspective of how people view food, because a lot of us view food as like, it's a difficult topic for a lot of people. And this is where I do a lot of my coaching, is you can't just quit eating. Well, you can, but then bad things happen. But it's not like alcohol or drugs or other things that people feel addicted to, or they're using to cope or to avoid. You have to keep eating. And I know I've been frustrated with that in the past. And I said, why can't I just stop eating? It would be so much easier, And that's something that I think resonates with a lot of people, because we all eat emotionally at one time or another, but it's not a problem unless it's affecting our health in a negative way.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Talking about like the good versus bad foods, I'm still like in active recovery. I consider myself, because I'm still like doing the research and reading the literature, and I'm involved in classes. And I had one yesterday, and I did not realize that one food that I considered to be bad, and that like I didn't even keep in my home until I moved in with my boyfriend, because he puts it on everything, is butter. I don't think I've ever cooked with butter, or like if there was butter in something, I either like find a substitute for it or just like don't put it on or in anything. And that was one thing that's my challenge for this week, is I have to cook with butter, because I'll eat it if someone else cooks with it and I know it's in things, but I've never, like, my boyfriend will steam broccoli and just put a pat of butter in that. And I'm like, oh my God, I would never. But it's learning. It's like totally changing your mindset and realizing like that pat of butter that you put in your broccoli, one, is going to make it taste better, and two, isn't going to kill you. It's not going to instantly like clog your arteries and kill you, like, I promise. And so that's something that I'm still working on too. So it's really cool to hear how people do stuff like that, because I feel like I've done years of therapy, but I'm kind of on my own now, which I enjoy, but it makes doing that hard work so much harder. So I'm like, It was something I didn't even realize until literally yesterday. It was like this mind-blowing moment. I was like, who knew that was a food that I still associated as bad? And then now my project for this week is to dive into that and figure out why, and then to cook with butter too. So yeah, it's just, this whole thing is so fascinating to me, and the work that you do is really cool to me.
Well, thank you. I love it. I think it's amazing. And people who don't know about coaching, it's like having a friend who kind of helps you out. And it's so much easier to show people their minds versus your own, because we do self-coaching as well. And coaching yourself, you can do it, and I can give people the skills to do it, but it's so much more powerful because someone else can kind of go in and reach for that thought and pull it out and be like, did you notice you were thinking this and that's causing you to feel this way? And then you're doing that. And they're like, never thought of that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is. And it's so gratifying, because you can literally change people's lives in one or two conversations, and working together for 6 months to a year. It's a cumulative effect, and it profoundly shifts the way that they see themselves, see their relationship, especially with food, and the way they see the world.
Definitely. And I have to ask, just because I like to know the origin for names of things, like, how did you come up with the Thrive Arena, the name, the company, the brand?
Yeah, so it was kind of funny, because my husband and I were throwing around names one night, and I give him credit for it. He actually thought of it. But Thrive means to grow, develop, to prosper, and flourish, which I just think is super cool. And my maiden name is Arena. So the Thrive Arena, just kind of, we were throwing out different names, and he's like, well, what about Thrive? And I'm like, well, that's Kaiser's kind of thing, is Thrive. And I don't want it to just be Thrive, because, Googling names for stuff, you want to make sure that you don't have the same name. And he's like, well, what about Thrive Arena? And I was like, well, that's perfect. It's a place, an arena is a place where people gather. So the Thrive Arena is a gathering place for people to learn, grow, and flourish. And
that is so cool.
That was really cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I would never, like, just looking at it, you'd never know. And the fact that you can bring in your maiden name in that is really cool too. Oh, that's so cool. I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. And I really enjoy your Instagram content and everything that you've been putting out there. Since it was Tiana, right, that connected us?
I think so. Yeah. Definitely one of your friends.
Yeah, she told me about you, and then I noticed, I was Instagram stalking you, and I just love all of your content and all of the positivity that you're putting out there. I think that it is so, so important for people to understand. And whether you have an eating disorder or not, like this knowledge is things that people have to know in order to succeed in life. I think, like, you can't spend your whole life not understanding what you're putting into your body and what it's doing for you. So the work that you're doing is so cool, so important, and I love everything about it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I just, I have grand ambitions to like create a health revolution where everyone knows that they can feel better, and they can be healthier, and they can really affect their lives. And having, when I deal with patients, especially with autoimmune diseases, they're chronic illnesses, they're devastating, but I can still empower my patients in helping them have better health and energy and cope with their diagnosis and realize it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And even, with or without, a disease diagnosis, we can all improve things. And, it's not that you're broken and there's nothing wrong with you. It's just, you can improve. And why would you not want to? Right?
Absolutely.
Like if you know you can do something and you have that power within you, and you just maybe need to hire someone for 6 to 12 months to help you tap into that, to optimize what you're already doing and make you even better, like the best version of yourself. Like the world deserves the best version of all of us.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
where I'm really passionate about it. And so thank you. It's really something I am passionate about.
Yeah. And thank you for the work that you're doing, because it's, like I said a million times, it's just so important. And I commend you for all the hard work that you've done. One of my last questions for you, and something I like to end each episode of the podcast on, is do you have any last little bits of food for thought for our listeners? So anything you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I think, I thought a lot about this, and I think that I want people to know that being healthier is possible for you. And it just begins with a thought and a belief that it is possible. And you just go from there.
Oh my gosh. Perfect mic drop moment. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Food for Thought podcast. I'm so happy that I got to chat with you today. All right, everyone, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to my interview with Liz Rooke today. I will link all of her information in the description for the episode, and enjoy your week, you guys. Happy Monday. I hope you all had a great 4th of July, and I will see you all next week.